Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dustin Steiner here with GameZone eSports. I'm here with the man that has taken MLG to the next level, Sundance DiGiovanni, CEO of Major League Gaming. How you doing, Sundance? Thanks for taking time out of your day.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm doing well. Thanks for coming down.
It's no problem. All right, let's get things started here. Can you tell me a bit about how MLG got started?
Yeah, so MLG really kind of grew out of a lifelong passion for video games that I had. I grew up playing video games. It was always very social for me. And, finally my business partner and I reached a point in our lives where we had an opportunity to start whatever business we wanted to. And after thinking about it and really kind of thinking about what we'd learned in our previous careers and working together, things lined up. It was the right time. It was the right window of opportunity for us, and we decided to give it a shot. And we totally bootstrapped the business for the first few years, going around doing research, learning, seeing what was already had already been established in the esports world, and then finally getting to a point where we held our first event, which is it's unbelievable. But that was 10 years ago that we started all this. And again, it really just kind of grew out of a shared passion for community, storytelling, and most importantly, video games.
Great. All right, let's see. What goes into the setup of each MLG event, and about how long does it take to get everything ready to rock?
Well, we have one of the amazing things is we have an incredible event team, right? So we have some full-time employees who oversee it, but then we have a lot of volunteers who come in specifically for these builds. And I think this event has shown that off more than most. These guys typically fly in on Sunday or Monday. They're setting up for 3 or 4 days, running miles of cable, hanging truss, getting all of the networking done so that we can stream. And of course, this event in Dallas this year, we had Hurricane Sandy, right? Sunday, Monday before the event. Most of our employees were without power on the East Coast. No flights going out, 170 flights canceled. People drove, hundreds and hundreds of miles to get here, some from as far away as New York City, to get here in time to set up the event so that we could go live on Friday. And I think that's, the thing that we've realized over the years is that we just have such an amazing staff of people who are also part of that community, who have that shared vision, that shared passion for esports. They literally show up, they unload 3 tractor trailers. It takes them almost a week to get this all set up, but it's incredible because every time it comes off without a hitch because of their passion and dedication. But there's a lot of man hours. There's a lot of time getting all this stuff networked together, making sure it all works, doing the tests. It's a long and involved process, and as they keep getting bigger and bigger, it takes more and more.
Well, it definitely seems to have paid off this time with the scale of the event out there is just incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What advice would you give to people looking to get involved in esports?
I think there's no difference really getting involved in esports for someone who has passion for it than getting involved in any other community or any workspace that they have passion for. Go out and look for places that you can apply your talents, where you might be a valuable asset. Reach out to people, try and make communications. Come to events, introduce yourself to people. It's a tough scene for some people to break into because a lot of folks are reserved and don't like to go outside of their comfort zone. But if you have a passion for it, walk up to me and introduce yourself and say, hey, I love this and I would love to help. We've hired a ton of our staff that way. Believe it or not, we hire from the community first. People are very accessible in the community via Twitter. A lot of emails are public. If you're a videographer or a writer or a player or even an organizer, go out and try and find somebody that you would classify as a mentor and try and reach out to them. The great thing about esports is that most of us who are involved in it and the building of it are huge believers in that passion, and when we see it reflected in other people, we try and encourage it and help it grow. So it just all starts with going out there and reaching out to somebody first, I think, for most people, because it's not going to come. Typically, it's not going to come to you. You've got to go out there and make it happen.
What about like the old boys club, as it's called, of like the people that were involved in like Quake and things like that, like people like DJ Weeds, Slasher, people that it's just harder to get involved with that core audience there? Like how would you go about breaching that?
Well, I think Wheat, for example, is an incredibly approachable guy. I'll be honest with you. If you go to Wheat and you say, "Hey, I'm a big fan. Can you give me some pointers?" Wheat will sit with you and he'll talk to you. I've seen him do it. The old boys club. I mean, people that know each other stay close. They stay tight, right? So it's going to happen no matter what, and it happens in any industry. But I think the big thing is not to be intimidated by that or feel like you can't start something or create something without acceptance into that, right? In a scene like esports where it's constantly growing and constantly evolving, there's room for more voices. If you do a job and do a job well, you'll get your share of time, your share of exposure. But again, a lot of these guys have been doing it for 10, 15 years. They know each other, they're comfortable with each other. They've been traveling around to events for a decade together. So don't expect to be able to break into that necessarily overnight, but do your own thing. I mean, who's the next DJ Wheat? Right? He's out there somewhere.
That's true. All right. Let's see. What about people looking to run their own tournaments locally or online? Are there any particular challenges you would say are hard to, overcome?
Well, it's always harder than it looks, right? When we first started, it was really tricky. Again, I think community-run tournaments are fantastic and they're an important part of the scene in general. Start small, start local. Don't be disappointed if it doesn't go as planned, because it's not going to. Learn what you can from it and try and build up. All right, don't try and think that you're going to come into it and start the scale where you're going to get full bracket of 256 players or teams, because it's not necessarily going to happen. Maybe the first time out you get 10, 20 people, whatever. But if it's something that you have passion for and something that you believe in and you're drawn to do, you put the time in, you can build it. So it's just persistence, and again, the challenges are, again, you've got to, if you start, you got to finish it. You can't walk away from it, because whenever anybody gets involved in this and tries to hold a tournament and doesn't see it through, it's bad for everybody. That's one thing that you just can't do. So make sure you're committed to it. Make sure you're going to see it through.
Okay, great. Let's see. Now moving over to StarCraft. There's been quite a lot of drama the past few weeks within the StarCraft 2 community. Doomsayers like Destiny saying Blizzard's off course with the casual audience, and among other issues. From a tournament organizer perspective, do you think the game's on the decline at all, and do you have any statistics to share that would point to the otherwise?
Well, again, Hurricane Sandy hit. A lot of people are still without power on the East Coast. We went live on Friday and had record-breaking Friday numbers on all of our streams. StarCraft was included in that, right? So I'm not seeing the decline, but again, the way we run our StarCraft event and the way we engage and the talent we have, it's a little different than most other events. Yes, maybe League of Legends is getting a lot of viewership. It just had a World Championship. Riot is doubling down on Season 3 and putting a lot of expense towards that. Blizzard spent a lot more than people realize trying to cultivate esports this year. I think if people actually knew how much money and how much time and effort they put into it, they might be a little surprised. But they're not going to go out and they're not going to toot their own horn. What they're going to do is they're going to try and stay the course, and they're going to try and make sure that Hearth's Form, when it comes out, gives StarCraft that boost in the arm, just like Brood War did back with StarCraft, the original StarCraft. So I don't think it's in the decline at all. I think if anything, what we're going to see is a lot more effort out of Blizzard, a lot more organizational help, a lot more extended commitment towards building that the accessibility of the game, right, to the casual people. So whenever a Destiny or a Wheat or a Slash or anybody comes out and has an opinion in terms of what's happening with one of these games, most often you have to understand that it's with limited information, right? They haven't sat and heard the battle plan that some of these publishers have for multiple years coming down the road. If I thought StarCraft 2 was in trouble, I would be trying to find replacements for it. Instead, we're looking to do much more with Blizzard next year. So we're looking at really being prepared for Hearth's Form when that game comes out and the talent pool all gets it at the same time, and it's a level playing field. So the folks who are on Brood War don't have to wait a year to jump over. You're going to see a big consolidation amongst the organizers and the operators and the players as well, and the team. So. I think that we're just starting to scratch the surface, honestly. And with some of the things that Blizzard has told me that they have planned, I think that you're going to see a big year of growth in 2013, and followed up by, again, extended commitment. We're talking multiple years of them making sure that the game is made operational and accessible, not just to the hardcore, but to the casual fan as well. Again, remember, Blizzard is a very large company. okay, and StarCraft is a very important title to them. Mike Morhaime has a strong feeling of passion for StarCraft and for the audience of StarCraft. StarCraft isn't going anywhere.
Well, definitely good to hear. Okay, if you could change one thing about the pro scene for any of the games you run, what would it be?
One thing about the pro scene. Wow. I would love it for there to be kind of a very accessible, very easy to understand path for anybody who wants to better themselves and eventually maybe one day try and be a pro. Right now, we've seen this in the past with some of the games that we've run, and it's evident today with StarCraft 2 and even with League of Legends to a degree. But there's starting to be some approaches to fixing it. We're an operator that operates multiple titles, right? And so what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to engage with all levels of talent, people who want to play the game, people who want to watch the game, people who think they're the next pro, and give them an opportunity to have victories within whatever section that is. If you're somebody who thinks you're the next pro, you can go out and there's a path, to try and better yourself, get noticed, come to events, make it through a few rounds, get noticed by other people, get a shot to play on a main stage in a broadcast. That's incredibly important. Having an online, competition hub where people can engage and get better and play against one another. I just think we need a little bit more structure, really, is what's lacking, because we have multiple publishing partners with different objectives from esports, with different views of how to engage. So what we need to do is we need to solidify our approach. I can't worry about everyone else who's an operator. I just have to worry about how, if someone wants to be an MLG player, this is where they go, this is what they do, and this is how they, kind of climb the ranks there. And then, hopefully, pretty soon, that will also impact what happens when they say go to DreamHack or an IEM, right? So that day when we have some structure and some unification, I think will help the scene tremendously. It'll help the teams, it'll help the players, and it'll help the audience. And hopefully we'll get there soon.
All right. Let's see. How hard was it to cut Halo from the pro circuit, given that's how MLG kind of got its start? And how does it feel, or what would you say to fans that were upset by that decision?
It hurt me as much as it hurt them. Halo is one of the things that we built this company on by design, something I have a very personal relationship with. But we, again, it's a business, and we have to run a healthy business, and the numbers weren't there. The investment that we made in the game, we did not have an opportunity to see a return on it, and would have put the company in jeopardy to continue to operate that way, right? So we had to take a break. Now we have Halo 4 here. It's great to have it back. It's great to see those guys back. It wasn't as long a time off as people are, think, but again, when your baby's not there for a couple of events, it hurts. And I'm really looking forward to next year, where we may possibly have 2 console shooters to work with. But again, Halo is a big part of our history. The guys at 343, especially Kevin Franklin, have done a tremendous job. I really can't say enough about how much time he has put into it. And no, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be the old Halo, but it's going to be an evolution, and it's going to be something that hopefully we can work with for a long time. So, it was a very difficult decision, but I'm just glad that we have it back, and I'm hopeful for the future with it.
Let's see. What in particular has 343 done with Halo 4 that you like so far?
Well, I think whenever you have a franchise that is as old as a Halo, for example, people have an attachment to certain things within the game and certain expectations. What they've done is they've stayed true to the core of the game, and they've evolved the mechanics quite extensively. They've tried to build a game that will work both for the casual player and the hardcore player, and will have enough modes and variants that people will be able to enjoy it. Essentially what they've done is they've taken a few risks, honestly, which a lot of people aren't going to like. People don't like change, but some of those risks are going to pay off, and are going to reward the players with a new game, a new experience that's familiar, but yet has some the nuances to it maybe are not born from Reach or Halo 3. And I think that's important. I think one of the things that we have a history of doing is you look back, there's Counter-Strike 1.6, it's Quake. We hold on to these ideas of, well, that game was just the best game, and it's now 15 years old or 10 years old, and it's just not, you can't operate it. We have to evolve as well. We have to evolve, and we have to find the games that are going to work for our purposes, and we're going to draw the fans and the viewers and the players. And I think Halo, with its history, and we see with a full bracket here at this event, at an exhibition tournament, I think it's safe to say that the game's back.
All right. Let's see. How successful has the pay-per-view model been in the arenas and the MVP Invitational?
Pay-per-view model, in terms of being successful, it's something where we had to experiment, to see what the response would be from the community. So, the last line of defense should be that the viewer has to pay, 100% of the burden. Advertising ideally would be the way to go. But without running that experiment, we wouldn't know how much scale we could have around that. So it was successful in a couple of tiers. It was disappointing in a few ways because of the fact that it created so much friction within the community. But again, I stand by the fact that I think that the content we produce that's gated is worth it. The MVP, the invitational that we did, massive amounts of content for $10, and people just expect it to be free. And you know what? Eventually you're going to find it out there on the internet. Somebody's going to be streaming torrents or whatnot. Hey, if that's how you're going to get it, that's how you're going to get it. But my belief was that, that content was great content, and because of the relationship that we have with the guys at Kespa and their licensing laws that they have in place, because of the relationship they have with Blizzard and how it's structured, it had to be pay gated in North America. That same content is going to be broadcast on TV in Korea. That same content is going to come back around when we, the next time we go out there. It's going to look a lot different and be more accessible. But again, we have to take baby steps. This industry is just not mature enough to be able to count on advertising revenue or sponsorship revenue to foot 100% of the bill. And if it were, we would never charge for anything. But that's obviously not the case. And the other thing I think is the audience needs to understand that, again, you may hate paying for stuff, right? We know everybody wants things for free, but if you value this and you take a look at it, you get a preview, you say, all right, you know what, I make the decision to buy. That's great. If you decide not to, you don't have to go out and tell everybody what a mistake it is to charge. You don't have to, but a lot of the vocal minority wants to. But that's to be expected. Again, we learned a lot about the community, about the behaviors, about what we felt was a right tiering and packaging, and we're cleaning a lot of that up too. Moving forward, we don't want to be in a position where if people want a global pass with access to everything, we want to be able to provide that. And so we're going to be working in our off season after this event to figure out some of those pricing tiers and how to reward, the thousands and thousands of people who bought gold membership and who bought these things, because they're our early adopters. Those are customers that took a leap with us, and we want to reward them for that.
All right. What are some other games MLG is keeping a close eye on for competitions maybe next year?
I'm really excited about a game called Offensive Combat. I mean,
that game does look pretty good.
It's an incredible development team from AAA titles, doing a free-to-play, and I like the kind of tone, the voice that it has. It's entertaining, right? So it plays really, really well too, and it's just getting better and just getting better. So I want to try and see if we can help them make that game, something that people pick up and play, right? We're going to try and do some really revolutionary things with them in terms of how we work with them around game battles and bringing it in, and in-game, some of the in-game interactions and tournament, modes that we want to try and build out. But I'm really excited for that. I think PlanetSide is another game that the scale of it is a little intimidating, but it seems like there could be some great stuff going on there, and those guys are really trying to make it work. Obviously, Shoot Mania is here. We're looking at that. People have seen that. It's the closest thing to Quake that people have seen for a little while. But again, I just keep coming back to Offensive Combat because I can pick it up and play a game in 10 minutes, and I'm just, and it's so entertaining. And we're playing maybe a little more than we should after hours at the office, and it lends itself to smack talk so incredibly well. So I think that could be a really entertaining title, and as it continues to down the development path, I'm expecting to see some of these things they've been talking about added in, and just what the game's going to turn into is pretty exciting.
All right. So you've talked a little bit about plans you've had heading into 2013 for MLG. Can you elaborate a little bit more on those?
Well, we're gonna ideally target December as a broad, kind of announcement date. We're changing things up a bit, and I want to do it all at once. I want to get everything out there. I want to not drive Katie crazy by leaking certain things that I'm not supposed to. But what we're going to do is we're going to put together a full package and let everybody know what our plans are across the board for our events, for our pricing, for all of the things we have planned for the year. And let that just soak in a little bit so people can prepare for it. We're also going to be working with leagues like ESL and DreamHack, and maybe a couple more. The goal for us is to stabilize and scale, and to be able to take the success that we've created this year and just keep growing. So look for something in December most likely for all those details. All right. We'll get it to you first, I promise.
I'm sure Katie will. She's usually pretty good about that. Anyway, do you have any closing words for your fans and supporters out there?
I just want to thank everybody who's been a part of this. I mean, from the guys who come down to cover the events, to the people who drive their kids here, to the kids who get on a plane for the first time. We do this for you guys, and we do it for ourselves because we love it and we have passion for it. And the thing that I just really always am moved by is the passion and joy that you see from these fans, and that is enough of a reward to help us through the hard times when things maybe don't go the way that we would like them to, or there's challenges or technical difficulties. Just thank you. Thanks for being a part of it, and we're excited for what we've done, but we're really excited about what the future holds for all of us.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Sundance, and we'll bring you more from MLG Dallas all weekend long. Stay tuned, guys.